China said Wednesday it will buy 200 Boeing aircraft and work with the US to reduce tariffs, confirming some details from the outcome of President Donald Trump's visit to Beijing last week. The deal, which would end a virtual sales freeze on Boeing aircraft to China of nearly a decade, was announced by the Chinese Commerce Ministry on Wednesday. Chinese leader Xi Jinping hailed ties with Russia as a force of calm amid chaos during a meeting with Vladimir Putin in Beijing on Wednesday, days after Xi hosted a fractious international situation and took a veiled jab at the US as he sat down with Putin in the Great Hall of the People for meetings kicking off the Russian leader's roughly 24-hour state visit in the Chinese capital. Opening batters Fakhar Zaman and Saim Ayub have been ruled out of the upcoming one-day international ODI series against Australia scheduled to begin on May 30, the Pakistan Cricket Board, PCB, said on Wednesday. According to a press release issued by the Cricket Board, both been advised to continue their rehabilitation programmes under the supervision of the PCB medical panel. Under the supervision of the PCB,
US President Donald Trump has tightened his grip on the Republican Party as Kentucky voters ousted one of the few conservative lawmakers willing to openly challenge his authority, Congressman Thomas Massey's defeat, which was predicted by US news networks, including NBC and CNN, about 2 hours after polls closed on Tuesday, marks another victory in Trump's campaign to punish dissent within Republican ranks.
A meeting between Chinese leader Xi Jinping and visiting Russian President Vladimir Putin has started in Beijing, Chinese state media reports. Xi welcomed Putin on Wednesday to the Chinese capital, shaking hands with the Russian leader outside the Great Hall of the People in advance of their talks, video by Russian media showed.
Lahore, former Istehkam-i Pakistan Party IPP patron-in-chief Jahangir Khan Tareen said he has quit politics but will continue social work in the education sector. Speaking at the inauguration of a modern computer laboratory at Government Progressive Girls High School on Tuesday, he said, "I have quit politics, but I will continue to serve the education sector."
Indian Army Chief Gen Upendra Dwivedi's recent provocation, asking Pakistan to choose whether to remain part of geography or history, has once again exposed the contradictions that continue to define India's policy towards its western neighbour. The statement came barely days after an unusual chorus seemed to be emerging within sections of India's strategic and ideological establishment, one that seemed to be creating space for engagement with Islamabad. This led many to believe that New Delhi's political ecosystem was quietly preparing domestic opinion for a limited thaw with Islamabad. Karachi. Rights activists and community representatives have demanded that the government announce a comprehensive resettlement plan before carrying out any eviction or demolition drive in connection with the Karachi-Peshawar Main Line ML1 railway expansion project, and warned that the enforcement of the railway right-of-way (RAW) principle should not become a pretext for acquiring excessive land from the poor families living along the tracks. The ML1 project is seen as a game changer as it aims to upgrade and modernise the key infrastructure to enhance freight and passenger connectivity from Karachi to Peshawar. The work on the project is expected to begin in July 2026 from the Karachi port. United States President Donald Trump, his family and his businesses have been granted immunity from any ongoing audits into their tax affairs, according to a directive by the Department of Justice. The move on Tuesday came as an addendum to Trump's agreement a day earlier to settle a $10 BN lawsuit against the Internal Revenue Service, IRS, over the leak of his tax information to media outlets between 2018 and 2020.
Nigerian forces working with the United States claim to have killed 175 ISIL fighters in a series of joint strikes in the country's northeast in recent days. The Nigerian Defense Headquarters said on Tuesday that operations conducted with the U.S. military's Africa Command, AFRICOM, destroyed checkpoints, weapons caches, logistics hubs, military equipment and financing networks used by ISIL and the ISIL affiliate in West Africa province, ISWAP, which has led a years-long struggle in the region.
The harrowing details of the widespread torture and sexual violence inflicted on Palestinian prisoners, men, women and children, by Israeli forces, as chronicled by New York Times columnist Nicholas Kristof, are a damning indictment of the so-called civilized world that looks the other way when war crimes are committed by the Zionist state. Kristof's account, published last week, is based on interviews with a number of Palestinians who have experienced sexual violence at the hands of soldiers, settlers, interrogators in the Shin Bet Internal Security Agency, and, above all, prison guards. Among the victims interviewed was freelance journalist Sami Al-Sai, 46, who was detained by Israeli authorities in 2024. The description of his experience in prison is as horrific as that of countless other Palestinian men and women who have endured brutal acts of sexual violence. The journalist linked his abuse to pressure from the Israeli authorities to turn informer. Pride in his profession kept him from yielding to their demand. Many others in his place would have succumbed to the pressure. To be wealthy and honoured in an unjust society is a disgrace. Confucius often wondered that if I ever come to be awarded one of Pakistan's civil honours, not that I deem myself worthy of one, would I accept it? After all, many of my colleagues have done so and flaunt them with great pride. I am not sure I would.
Indian PM Narendra Modi's penchant for not taking questions during interactions with the press did not go down well with journalists in Norway who wanted to quiz the visiting dignitary. Mr. Modi is on a 6-day, 5-nation tour and landed in Oslo on Monday to attend the 3rd India-Nordic summit.
The United States Senate has advanced a war powers resolution that could prevent President Donald Trump from using military force against Iran without congressional authorization amid widening fallout from the conflict. The vote on a procedural measure to advance the resolution was passed on Tuesday by a margin of 50 to 47, with a handful of Republicans joining Democratic colleagues to pass the measure in a rare rebuke of the president.
Russian President Vladimir Putin arrived in China on Tuesday evening for a 2-day visit centred on talks with Chinese President Xi Jinping as Moscow and Beijing draw closer amid war, sanctions and an increasingly fractured global order. Putin's visit is the second face-to-face meeting he has held with Xi in less than a year and coincides with the 25th anniversary of the 2001 Treaty of Good Neighbourliness and Friendly Cooperation, the agreement that formalised ties between Russia and China following decades of ideological rivalry and mutual suspicion.
The United States will ensure that the Democratic Republic of the Congo's DRC football team can enter the country to play in the World Cup, making an exemption to an Ebola-related entry ban, according to a senior Department of State official. We expect the DRC team to be able to attend the World Cup, the official said, on condition of anonymity.
Former Cuban leader Raul Castro could be indicted for his alleged role in the shooting down of 2 civilian planes 30 years ago that killed 3 Americans and sent U.S.-Cuba relations plunging. The planes belonging to a Miami-based volunteer organization called Brothers to the Rescue were shot down in 1996, triggering the long-standing embargo on Cuba that remains in place today.
As with many other Cubans in their 70s, Alina Fernandez's first memory of Fidel Castro was watching his interminable speeches on television. My generation used to pray in front of the TV for him to finish so we would be able to watch our cartoons, she recalled in a CNN interview Monday. That's the way I grew up.
The National Association for the Advancement of Coloured People, NAACP, has called on black athletes and fans to boycott public universities in the United States South in opposition to redistricting efforts that dilute black voting power. The so-called Out of Bounds campaign, launched on Tuesday, calls on black athletes, their families, alumni and fans to withhold athletic and financial support from major public universities in states that have moved to limit, weaken or erase black voting representation. Anti-government protests have escalated across Bolivia, with thousands of people demanding the resignation of center-right President Rodrigo Paz as road blockades leave the administrative capital, La Paz, short of food, fuel and medicine. On Monday, farmers, miners, teachers, public sector workers and indigenous communities converged on the city after weeks of mobilizations over wage increases, economic instability and moves to privatize state-owned companies. Health authorities in the United States have said that a medical missionary who contracted Ebola in the Democratic Republic of the Congo, DRC, is being transported to Germany for treatment. The U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, CDC, said on Tuesday that the patient would be treated at Charité University Hospital in Berlin following a U.S. request for assistance.
Messaging platform giant Discord has switched on end-to-end encrypted voice and video messaging for every user. The end-to-end encryption feature means that Discord users can now communicate privately without anyone else being able to listen in to their calls, not even Discord. This is a major privacy win for the community's hundreds of millions of users, soon after social media giant Meta pulled the plug on Instagram's end-to-end encrypted messaging feature earlier this year. TikTok said it would also not end-to-end encrypt user messages after it became a US company.
At the Google I/O 2026 keynote, the tech giant revealed new agentic capabilities in search, where users can create, customize, and manage multiple AI agents to stay updated on topics of interest. The announcement is part of Google's larger push toward agentic AI systems that can take initiative and assist with ongoing tasks instead of answering one question at a time. Unlike traditional search tools that respond only when prompted, Google's information agents are designed to operate continuously in the background 24/7, helping users stay informed about their interests without needing to repeatedly search for the same information every day.
Google isn't finished infusing AI into your inbox. On Tuesday at their I/O 2026 developer conference, the tech giant announced an expansion of its AI inbox functionality for Gmail, which is adding conversational AI features. That means you can ask Gmail about things in your inbox. The company says the Gemini AI-powered feature called Gmail Live will help you quickly find information buried in your inbox.
Google announced at its annual Google I/O event on Tuesday that it's launching Pix, a new AI-powered design and image generation app for Google Workspace. The tech giant says it designed the app to be accessible to everyone, from teachers to small business owners. With Pix, users can generate everything from social media graphics and invitations to marketing materials and mock-ups using simple text prompts without needing any editing skills or advanced tools. By giving users an easy way to generate visuals, Google is looking to take on popular design apps like Canva, as well as products from AI-native competitors like Claude Design from Anthropic. Google's entry into the space signals that AI-powered design is fast becoming a core competitive arena, with real stakes for any business that depends on visual content. UK citizens are among dozens of nationalities who will soon have to apply for a visa if they wish to stay in Thailand for more than 30 days. Tourists from 93 countries have been able to visit without needing a visa for 60 days since July 2024, as part of a government effort to boost the economy following the COVID pandemic.
The United Nations has said 15,850 people, including 791 children, have been killed in Ukraine since Russia's full-scale invasion of the neighbouring country in February 2022. The actual figures are likely significantly higher. Kyoko Goto, Europe and Central Asia Director of the UN's Department of Political and Peacebuilding Affairs, DPPA, told the UN Security Council on Tuesday. Arsenal are confirmed Premier League champions for the first time since 2004, as Manchester City failed to win at Bournemouth. City needed to win their final 2 games, as well as hope. Arsenal failed to win their final match, but were held to a 1-1 draw on Tuesday.
US President Donald Trump has given reporters a tour around the construction site of his controversial White House ballroom, saying it would feature a rooftop drone empire designed to protect the Capitol.
Mikel Arteta has silenced his doubters by awakening sleeping giant Arsenal, restoring the Gunners to the top of English football, 22 years on from Arsene Wenger's Invincibles. Arsenal have finally got over the line to vindicate the Arteta project that began with his appointment back in 2019.